Every single promise Donald Trump made on the campaign trail, he's broken. Lower prices, they're skyrocketing. A surging stock market, it's crashed. And this farce that he was going to end the war in Ukraine before he was even sworn in, of course, that was never going to happen. And it is exactly what Donald Trump was called out for to his face when he was confronted by reporters as he was getting on Air Force One. And as you could expect, a screaming Donald Trump was not happy about the lies that he was caught in. We're going to cover it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into the lies Donald Trump was called out for on the war in Ukraine, we have to see where this all started with Donald Trump just rambling about tariffs and how he's going to get rid of taxes.
Plenty of problems in the world. You know, when I left 4.5 years ago, I left, and I'll tell you what, we didn't have any of these problems. The good news is costs are way down, groceries are down, eggs are down, gasoline is way down. It's all coming down. It's all looking good. The tariffs are strong. We're taking in a lot of money from tariffs. We were losing a lot before I got here. We were losing billions of dollars a day, and now we're doing great, and we haven't even kicked in yet. And eventually we'll be reducing taxes very substantially for the people of our country because the money is so great coming in from tariffs. And we're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to cut taxes for the people of this country. It'll take a little while before we do that, but we're going to be cutting taxes. And it's possible we'll do a complete tax cut because I think the tariffs will be enough to cut all of the income tax. Now, we have a lot of debt that's been left to us, unfortunately, over many years. We'll take care of that. But the tariffs, if people only understood the tariffs, we're going to be giving people of this country a tremendous tax cut. And we're going to start with people making less than $200,000 a year.
Donald Trump is clearly looking at his poll numbers right now because the idea that he would be eliminating income tax altogether because of a tariff plan that is failing doesn't make any sense. It isn't even remotely conceivable. And it's the funniest thing about all this shtick they're laying out there about the tariffs. Are they a negotiating tool and you're trying to get deals out of them? And by the way, the deals are not coming, as we're about to see in just a second. Or do you want to implement them as long-term economic policy to raise money that actually is much lower than what Donald Trump promised? We're in the hundreds of millions rather than tens of billions coming in because everything Donald Trump says about this plan has been a lie, especially the idea that China is just raring to go on these discussions, which clearly isn't the case.
Dollars a year.
Is there any movement on China? Because China says
a little bit. Look, a little bit. They want to make a deal, obviously. Right now, they're not doing business with us. People talk about going cold turkey with China, meaning just forget about it. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year with China, and now they're not doing any business with us, because, not because of them, because of me. Because at 145%, you can't do business. But something's going to happen that's going to be positive.
Donald, if China wanted a deal, why have they denied wanting a deal? The Chinese embassy has stated clearly that there are no talks going on right now, and they are happy for Donald Trump to be the one to cave, which he already has multiple times. And while he caves to Apple, making sure all the billionaires who gave him millions of dollars for his inauguration or any other slush fund of cash that he has, while they get their exemptions, regular small businesses are hurt. But at the same time, Donald Trump is saying that eventually the tariffs are going to go down. Again, running contrary to this idea that long-term they'll be bringing in money. Donald Trump is just throwing stuff at the wall as he always does. Everything is 2 weeks away. And that was a number he was actually called out on right here.
You keep saying 2 weeks about President Putin. What is 2 weeks? Give us, what is the actual date? What is the timeline?
2 weeks or less, and if it's a little more at the time, I say, but they're losing a lot of people.
I am so glad that someone is finally confronting him about this. 2 weeks away. You keep saying 2 weeks away. It's been 1,000 sets of 2 weeks since you announced your healthcare plan was 2 weeks away, and still we know nothing about an end to the war in Ukraine. which Donald Trump was also pressed on after his meeting with Zelensky during the Pope's funeral, as we can see right here.
Is your relationship with President Zelensky better now than things were in the Oval Office?
It was never bad. We had a little dispute because I disagreed with something he said, and the cameras were rolling, and that was okay with me. But we had a dispute. But look, he's in a tough situation, a very tough situation. He's fighting a much bigger force, much bigger, and that force has not been very distinguished. You know, it's been a lot tougher than they thought, but it helped them when we gave them $350 billion worth of weapons or cash. Is Zelensky ready to give up?
Now, Donald Trump doesn't understand a lot, but I think he kind of understands at least how he wants to be perceived, and he knows Putin has made him look weak and made him look stupid. So I think there might be a shift happening right now with Trump trying to pretend everything has been fine with Zelensky, as maybe he works towards backing Ukraine, as we should have been this whole time. They are our ally. They were invaded by a murderous dictator in Vladimir Putin. So maybe he's trying to make a shape here where he can pretend to come out as someone who brokered the deal, someone who's always liked Zelensky, maybe playing hardball after we saw that conversation between the two of them at the Pope's funeral, where Zelensky is clearly the one playing Donald Trump here. He is clearly the one outmaneuvering him. And although Donald Trump is angry about a lot of things, he's clearly not smart enough to realize he should be angry about how embarrassed he's been on the world stage. But Bernie Sanders talked all about this and where he thinks things are going and what needs to be done in a clip right here.
President Trump signaling he could be looking at the possibility of imposing new sanctions against Russia. Do you think that President Trump should impose new sanctions against Russia?
Well, I think what Trump has done over the last number of months has been an absolute disaster and been of real assistance to Putin and his horrible war against the people of Ukraine. When you announce to the world that it was Ukraine that started the war, when you insult Zelensky, who comes into the Oval Office, what you are telling Putin is, hey, we are on your side. For the first time in the 250-year history of the United States of America, we have a president who sides with a dictatorship, and that is outrageous. So I hope very much that in the coming weeks and months, we can reach some kind of a settlement, that Ukraine, of course, who have suffered so much in fighting Russia and defending democracy, is at the table. You cannot make a decision without the Ukrainian people abiding by that and being part of that process.
Okay, just to be very clear, though, do you think now is the time for sanctions, just quickly before we move on to tariffs?
I think we have got to do everything that we can to work with the rest of the world and tell Putin he cannot run over an independent country.
Okay, so not taking sanctions off the table. I do want to talk about tariffs now and the trade war. President Trump says he is taking an aggressive approach on the trade war because he says he wants to bring manufacturing back. He says he wants to bring jobs back for American workers. Senator, do you support temporary economic pain if it does mean bringing back manufacturing and leveling the playing field, as President Trump has argued?
Look, Kristen, you're talking to somebody who helped lead the effort against NAFTA, against PNTR with China. Because I understood back then that these were trade agreements written by corporate America so they could shut down thousands of plants in this country, lay off millions of workers, and move to low-wage countries where people were paid starvation wages. So if your question is, do I believe in selective tariffs, tariffs that make sense to protect American workers? I do. Do I support what Trump did, which is an arbitrary tariff on virtually every country on earth, which will raise prices substantially for ordinary Americans? No, I don't. So if you have selective tariffs, carefully thought out to protect American workers, yes, what Trump has done is, in my view, very, very wrong.
Very clearly and unsurprisingly, Bernie has a much better grasp over all of this than our idiotic president. And he has been doing such a great job messaging how we need to move forward, taking action with the anti-oligarchy tour. And it's not just Bernie and AOC, obviously Cory Booker with his 25-hour filibuster, but he's back, and this time in his very important action that he's taking, rallying the troops. Thankfully, Cory Booker was able to sit down, holding a sit-in on the Capitol steps today, and I want to take a listen to some of what he had to say.
The great Congresswoman mentioned the Civil Rights Act of 64, Voting Rights Act of 65, Fair Housing Act of 68. How did those things happen? Do you think we got here because a bunch of senators over there one day got together on the Senate floor and Strom Thurmond pulled everybody together and said, I've seen the light. Let those Negro people have the right to vote. That's not how it happened. Do you think we got suffrage in America? The right to vote for women because a bunch of men on the House floor got together and said, hey, fellas, put it in right here, okay, on the count of three. On the count of three, women get the right to vote. Ready, 1, 2, 3, wait. No, that's not how it happened. What happened first before Obergefell? And they actually decided to let people marry who they love. Did it happen at the Supreme Court first? Or did it start at Stonewall? Did it start with Harvey Milk? We've got to remember how we got here, from Selma to Seneca Falls. We are here because of the power of the people. Change does not come from Washington. It comes to Washington. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Without a demand. And so we came out here today to start with our grounding, our foundation. Below these buildings, constructed, some of it with slave labor. The bedrock of our nation is not the people who are presidents or vice presidents or senators or congresspeople. The bedrock of this nation was seen in those dark days, hiding out in barns, when black folk and white folk got together and plotted the greatest infrastructure project America has ever known, the Underground Railroad. We got here because of individual Americans, like a little girl named Ruby Bridges, that when all the forces of hate were allied against her, she still stood up and said, I deserve the right to a free public education.
This is a moment for us to use our agency. Cory Booker is doing so, but more important than just his individual action is how he is imploring other Americans to do so, to take up arms in this fight, to protest, to be out on the street, to have your voice heard. And we are certainly going to be working to do that every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.